Hello everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name's Kyle. Sometimes it is easy to find yourself in a toxic relationship and not even know it. You'd think you'd be able to spot something like that, right? But you might be wrong like I was. For me, the moment it all snapped into focus was the night my fiancée turned her back to me in bed and whispered, "Don't touch me tonight." I realized this was manipulation, and I couldn't keep doing this. That night changed something in me, and I decided I was going to do something she never expected. But to really understand how everything got to this point, I need to take you back to how it started. Before Amber and I ever dated, before we were even close friends, I already had feelings for her. I know people throw that word around a lot, crush, but this was the kind that sticks. I wasn't some lovesick puppy, but I definitely noticed everything she did, even if she never noticed me. When I finally got the chance to be in her life as a friend, I took it. I stepped into that role like it was a job I'd been waiting years to apply for. And from day one, I made it a point to be dependable. I listened to her rants about life, relationships, school, and work. I was there for the heartbreaks and the setbacks. I was the guy who showed up. She didn't have to ask twice. If she needed anything, I was there. If she was upset about a bad breakup, I was the ear and the shoulder. I'd bring her food when she was too stressed to cook, and I made her laugh when I could see she was trying hard not to cry. Over the years, I watched her fall in love with men who didn't treat her right. Guys who didn't call back, who flaked on dates, who only showed up when they wanted something. She'd fall hard for them every time, and I'd be left to pick up the pieces when they inevitably let her down. I can't lie. Those moments were hard for me, not just because I cared, but because I wanted to be the one she looked at that way. But I didn't rush anything. I told myself that if I could just stay consistent, one day, she'd probably see me differently. Eventually, that day came. After enough failed relationships and moments of feeling unwanted, Amber turned to me, not just as a friend, but as someone she could love. And let me tell you, it felt like everything I'd waited for was finally happening. Even with all the history of me standing on the sidelines, I didn't carry bitterness into the relationship. I didn't hold it against her that she hadn't seen me that way before. Honestly, it only made me more committed. She wasn't just some girl I ended up dating. She was the one I dreamed about. So for me, making her happy became my full-time mission. From the very beginning, I treated our relationship like it was something fragile and rare, something I had to protect. I didn't take anything for granted. Every hug, every smile, every time she held my hand, it meant something to me. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I just wanted to be enough for her to feel loved, safe, and taken care of. I thought that was what love was supposed to look like. I didn't see the signs back then. I didn't realize that I was building a relationship on the idea of trying to constantly prove myself, while never asking if I was being loved the same way in return. Looking back now, I can see the signs were there, but easy to miss when you're in love and blinded by your own hope. I convinced myself that any bumps along the way were just part of relationships. What I didn't realize was that some of those bumps weren't normal at all. They were patterns. Red flags hiding in plain sight. One pattern stands out more than any other now. Every time things didn't go her way, maybe I disagreed with her or said no to something she wanted, her mood would shift into a cold, calculated one. She'd go quiet, withdraw. Suddenly, there'd be no cuddling, no kisses, no touching. Sometimes, she wouldn't even speak unless it was necessary. And I didn't question it. I thought, okay, maybe I upset her, or she's just hurt, let me fix it. So I would try harder, buy her things, cook for her, compliment her more, even apologize when I wasn't sure what I had done wrong, just to bring her back to that warm, affectionate version of herself that I loved. What I didn't understand at the time was that I wasn't repairing the relationship. I was reinforcing her control. Every time I gave in, every time I worked harder to get her affection back, I taught her that withholding love and intimacy was an effective way to get me to do what she wanted. I taught her that cold silence could bend me. I thought I was just being a good boyfriend by doing whatever it takes to make my partner happy. But in reality, I was being manipulated, and I didn't even see it. What hurts more is the realization that she never used this behavior with the guys who came before me. The ones who ignored her texts, disrespected her, and cheated. They didn't get the cold shoulder or emotional withdrawal. She didn't freeze them out to get her way because she knew they wouldn't care. But with me, the guy who adored her, who treated her like she mattered, that's when she decided to play games. That's when she started testing how far she could push. I was the one who gave her the space and security to pull these moves, and instead of appreciating that, she used it. It's a painful thing to admit, but I was the simp in her life. The guy who loved too much, gave too much, and asked for too little. Not because I was weak, but because I believed love meant constantly proving yourself. Turns out, I was proving all the wrong things to someone who had no respect for me in return. After dating for 3 years, I finally proposed to Amber. She said yes without hesitation, and I remember feeling this overwhelming sense of relief, like I had made the right choice, like everything was falling into place. But just a few days after the proposal, she said something while we were sitting on my couch, scrolling through our phones. She said, "I don't want to keep paying rent when I'll be moving in with you anyway." On the surface, it made sense. Why pay for 2 places when we were planning a future together? I told her it was fine. But what I didn't know then was that this was the start of a shift. Amber moved in, but she never really contributed financially. No rent, no utilities, not even the occasional grocery run unless I asked, and even then, it felt like I was inconveniencing her. Still, I somehow convinced myself that it doesn't matter. That once we were deeper into planning our life together, she'd step up in her own way and take care of small things. But that never really happened. What did happen was that the apartment slowly started changing. My posters came down. My furniture got swapped out and rearranged to suit her taste. She'd come home with throw pillows, decorative candles, or some gadget she said we needed. And when it came time to pay for them, the expectation was unspoken but always present. I would foot the bill. If she didn't feel like cooking, we ordered in. If she had a long day, I covered the cost of dinner. I wanted her to feel loved, to feel secure. I thought keeping her happy meant we'd build a stronger relationship. But there was a pattern. Anytime I tried to talk about money, she'd deflect or guilt-trip me. "You're the man, you should want to take care of me," she'd say, like it was a compliment. But it didn't feel like appreciation. Instead, it felt like an obligation. If I brought up budgeting or asked her to contribute, she'd go quiet, pull away. I'd get the cold shoulder for a day or 2, as if I had done something wrong just by asking for partnership. Looking back, I realize I never asked where her money was going. She never offered that information, and I never pushed. The truth is, I didn't want to start fights. I didn't want to seem controlling, so I let it slide, over and over. So, one random Wednesday, I had left work early because one of my meetings got canceled last minute. Figured I'd beat traffic and maybe surprise Amber with dinner or something simple. You know, those little moments that make a relationship feel good. I parked my car, came in through the side door instead of the front. It's quieter, and I like avoiding the creaky front steps when I'm not trying to alert the whole neighborhood that I'm home. As I stepped into the hallway, I could hear her voice echoing faintly from the bedroom. At first, I thought she was on a regular phone call, but then I realized it was on speaker. It was loud enough for me to hear every word clearly. I stopped walking so as to understand what they were saying. Then she said something that caught me by surprise. "I always get what I want. If he says no, I just freeze him out. It works every time." I stood there, trying to process what she meant. Her friends laughed, clearly entertained. One of them joked, "Girl, you're toxic." Amber didn't even deny it. She replied casually, almost proudly, "No, I'm smart. Men are easy when you know how to use what they want." I swear, in that second, something shifted in me. It was like someone turned the lights on in a dark room. Everything started to make sense, like the way she'd suddenly go cold if I didn't agree with her. the emotional distance, the way affection vanished without warning, the silent treatment. And then, just as fast, she'd be all smiles all over me once I gave in. I usually blame myself half the time, thinking I wasn't doing enough to make her feel loved. But now, it was clear. She wasn't reacting. She was planning. The silent treatment. And then, just as fast, she'd be all smiles all over me once I gave in. I usually blame myself half the time, thinking I wasn't doing enough to make her feel loved. But now, it was clear. She wasn't reacting, she was planning. She was rewarding and punishing me like I was some kind of pet she was training. Her coldness wasn't random. It was intentional. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was proud of it. I can't lie, hearing that broke something in me. Because while I was trying to be a good partner, she was playing a game. And I wasn't her equal in that game. I was just a piece she moved around to get what she wanted. But I didn't storm in to ask questions. I didn't even let her know I had heard. I quietly turned around and decided to play dumb. So when she finally figured I was home, I smiled that evening like nothing had happened. I asked about her day. I kissed her on the forehead. I acted like I didn't hear a damn thing. But inside, I was watching, waiting, and ready. About a month before her birthday, Amber came to meet me one day holding a piece of paper. She handed it to me with a smile and said, "This is what I want for my birthday." I unfolded it to see that it was a full-blown shopping list. The total cost must have been over $5,000. But here's the kicker. We were already in the middle of planning a wedding. I stared at the list for a while, trying not to let my facial expression say too much. It wasn't the first time she had asked for things, but something about this moment felt heavier. It might be the timing, or it might be the fact that I had started seeing a pattern. So I asked her to sit with me, to have a real conversation. I told her I wasn't saying no to everything, but that we needed to be realistic. I reminded her we were saving for a wedding. I said maybe we could scale back the list and prioritize. Her expression changed. She then looked at me for a second, gave me a flat, "Okay," and walked away. I knew what that "okay" meant. I'd heard it before, more than once. It wasn't acceptance. It was the silent trigger to the same old game. That night, when we got into bed, I knew what to expect. She didn't say much. She just turned her back on me like she was claiming her side of a battlefield. I reached out anyway, tried to hold her out of love, but the moment I touched her shoulder, she whispered coldly, almost without emotion, "Don't touch me tonight." So I let go. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling. My body was still, but my mind wasn't. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I kept playing the whole scene over and over in my head. How long had I been ignoring this? How many times had I confused manipulation with love? How often had I let emotional silence guide my decisions? That night, in that silence, I reached my breaking point. By the time the sun rose the next morning, I was done. She was already gone for her usual morning jog, like clockwork. But this morning, the second the door closed behind her, I carefully packed her things from every drawer and every corner, her clothes, her shoes, the boxes of makeup, and the hair products cluttered the bathroom counter. All of it, I packed into boxes and laid them neatly by the door. I wasn't asking her to leave. I was telling her she already had. When she got back, she wasn't expecting it. I watched through the peephole as she slowed down, staring at her things like it didn't compute. At first, she just stood there. Then she started knocking. Fast, hard, and impatient. "Babe? Babe, open the door. What's going on?" I leaned my head against the door, closed my eyes, and took a breath. Then I said it in the same cold tone she used on me the night before when I reached out for her. Only now I said, "Goodbye." Silence. Then her voice cracked into a scream. Kyle, what is this? Open the door." I didn't answer. What was there left to say? She had been playing a game I didn't know I was in, and now I wasn't playing anymore. Eventually, she stopped shouting. I heard her pacing while speaking to someone on the phone. I couldn't hear every word, but I didn't care. She texted me after the call. Just one sentence, "You'll regret this." And it was clear to me, in that moment, this wasn't about losing me. It was about losing control. Soon, I heard a car pull up. I looked out the window and saw one of her friends step out and help Amber load her things into the trunk. I just stood there, behind the curtain, watching them drive away. Then I sat down and asked myself the question every man who walks away from a woman he once worshipped probably asks. Was I too harsh? Could I have handled it differently? Maybe if I'd said this, or done that, or waited one more week. But here's the truth. I had confused being needed with being loved. She needed me, yes, for money, for stability, for praise, for comfort. But she didn't love me. Not in the way I needed. Not in the way I gave. After everything that happened, I wasn't surprised when Amber's friends started calling. I knew some of them would take her side, no matter what. The first call came that same day after I packed her things out. I didn't even save the number, but I recognized the voice instantly. It was her friend Layla. She didn't waste time sugarcoating anything. Her exact words were, "You're heartless and wicked. How could you do that to her?" I just let her talk. I didn't interrupt or argue. I just waited until she was done, and then I calmly told her, "You're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. But I prefer you don't call this number again." A day or two later, another one rang me up. This time it was Janelle. She was quieter, but her words still stung a little. She said I was cold and inconsiderate. She didn't ask me what led to the decision. She didn't want to know my side. And I get it, loyalty is a tricky thing. But I wasn't going to sit there and explain myself to people who never cared to understand my part. So again, I told her the same thing I told Layla. "You can think what you want. That's your right. But please don't call me again." The first 2 months felt like healing. I slept better, ate without stress, watched whatever I wanted on TV without hearing comments like, "This is boring. Can we watch something else?" I rediscovered what it meant to live for myself again. It was the kind of peace that doesn't shout, but you feel it in your bones. Then, one morning, I woke up to a message that was sent around 1 a.m. from Amber. I stared at it for a few seconds before opening the message. All it said was, "I messed up. Can I see you? When will you be home? I want to apologize." I read it once, read it again, and then I just shook my head. Because I knew that this wasn't about her realizing the damage she did or truly regretting anything. This was just another move. A new trick with the same goal, to test if she still had control. To find out if I could still be softened with the right combination of words. But her weapon doesn't work anymore. So I didn't reply. Because that silence is louder than any response I could have given. Looking back now, I realize how easy it is to miss the warning signs when you're in love, especially the kind of love where you're giving more than you're receiving. I was so caught up in how I felt about Amber that I didn't stop to really look at how she treated me in return. That imbalance made me ignore things I shouldn't have. But the truth is, love should never feel like you're constantly proving your worth just to earn basic respect or affection. Amber taught me something, though, and I'll give her credit for that. She taught me that emotional manipulation doesn't always come in loud arguments or obvious disrespect. Sometimes it's the quiet withdrawal, the calculated silence, the affection that shows up only when you give in. I used to think being needed was the same thing as being loved, but I know better now. When someone only warms up to you after getting what they want, it's not love. It's control. And once you recognize that pattern, you can't unsee it. Right now, I'm not looking to get into another relationship. I have no desire to tie myself to anyone. And until I meet someone who knows how to give as much as they take, I'm okay being on my own. To any man listening, especially those in relationships where they feel like they're always chasing closeness, let me say this. If you love her more than she loves you, pay attention. I'm not talking about one-off moments or bad days. I'm talking about patterns. If she always pulls away when you say no, if affection feels like a reward and not something freely given, that's not affection. That's manipulation. Don't fool yourself into thinking that silence in a relationship means peace. Sometimes it just means you've been shut out. And never, ever mistake being needed for being loved. Real love doesn't drain you, it lifts you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might need to hear what you've learned. Maybe your story or your words will help someone recognize what they've been tolerating too long. Thanks for listening.